Hello, everybody. We are so excited because today we have the fabulous Gabriella Gamez joining us. Hello, and I'm so glad that you're here. Um, so I'll let you say hello, and then I'm going to give you my special spiel.
Hi, I am very excited to be here. I'm Gabriella Gamez, author of The Next Best Fling, but you can call me Gabby. Everyone in my life pretty much calls me Gabby.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. So let me, Gabby and everyone out there, let me take you back to December 22nd, 2023. It was the day it's a very memorable day in my mind. It was the day I received an email from Forever Publishing. And they were wrapping up their year, talking about how amazing 2023 was. And then they started talking about what they're most excited about for 2024. And they had a couple books and they had a prioritized form, which I never filled out before. I've seen it before, but prioritized forms, for people that don't know, are forms that you fill out as a reader, as a reviewer, if you feel connections to that particular character or something in the plot. It's if you feel marginalized in some of the same ways that the characters have been, any connections that you may have. And I saw this book, The Next Best Fling, and it was the first prioritized form I ever filled out. I was so very excited to, one, learn about a Mexican American character, because I love to learn about other cultures. But for me, I connected to it from the standpoint of, we have a plus size heroine, which I love to see represented in literature. We don't see that enough in my mind, as well as a librarian. I had never seen that before. And I'm not a librarian, but I've come from a teaching background. Many of my friends are librarians, and a lot of what I do is library related. So I was just so thrilled after I filled out the form and I crossed all my fingers and toes. They granted me the arc, and I've never looked back. The book is fantastic. I'm so grateful that I got this opportunity, and I'm so thankful that you're sitting down with us today. And we've got a couple of people that have already said hi. Cheryl, hello. Tara's here. Oh my gosh. And we have more included. They have not said hi, but that's fine. You can just watch, listen, enjoy. So we've got lots of talking to do. I cannot wait. I've got so many questions. I was telling Gabby in advance of things that I wanted to discuss. And just to let everybody know, we are going to be talking about spoilers. For those of you that have read the book, we'll wait until the end and then we'll talk some dirt about the story. And we'll make sure that everybody knows so we don't ruin anything for those of
Oh
you that
yeah,
are
the
yet to enjoy.
spoiler journey.
That's right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, let me start with one of my favorite questions to ask. What made you want to be an author?
Yeah, so I don't know like what specifically made me want to be an author. I just know that ever since I was little, when I was in fourth or fifth grade, I got my first laptop. And I would just, like write whatever stories were in my head, and just have like a little fun, great time. It's like a 10-year-old or however old I was at the time.
I love it.
Yeah. So I don't know like what like it's been so long. It's like ever since I could remember, it's like this has always been this thing that's been part of me, like always having like stories in my head and wanting to write them down. And even if it's just like the like worst grammatical error, it's really just like journaling for me,
Yeah,
from that point on. So like that's yeah, so like
I
it's just
love
something that
it.
I've always wanted to be.
I love it. Now, did you have any particular types of stories that you enjoyed writing when you were little and you were writing those, or was it just anything?
Yeah, I had my like particular stories. So I was like a big like anime kid, with like one of my
Oh,
friends. So it honestly it was like fan fiction before I knew fan fiction was a thing.
oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, I love it.
It's like I didn't even know like that it was called that, or like that there was even a term or
Yeah,
anything like
that's
that.
so
It was
cool.
it was just like on my computer basically just like fan fiction of whatever I was watching at the time, and it was mostly
Yes,
anime. It was mostly like Naruto and things like that. We don't
I
need to
love
like
it.
go into the particulars of my embarrassing 10-year-old writing, but yeah, that's basically how it started.
Do you ever look back at it? 'Cause you probably do. You have it all saved and you can just glance back and be like, "Oh, yeah."
I don't, because it was such an old computer, and I've switched computers from then, and like I've tried to save stuff, but then
Yeah.
like, I think maybe when I was in, like, high school or college, I looked back at some of that stuff and I was like, "Oh, no, no, delete all."
Oh my gosh, that's terrific. I love that.
Yeah.
So, moving forward then, quite a few years, take us through your journey to publishing your first book.
Yeah, so, traditional publishing is kind of opaque just in, like, how,
Oh.
certain authors, like, get in and, like, break into the industry, so, like, that's always been something that, like, I've tried learning or tried Googling and didn't really get me anywhere until maybe around, like, 2019, um,
Oh.
was when I joined the book community. And there's also, like the writer community is very adjacent to that. So was starting to see like other authors who were kind of querying and like being like more transparent about like how traditional publishing actually works. How do you get a book published? And things like that. And so it was around that time as I was kind of like learning how the industry actually works that I was like, okay, I'm gonna take my writing more seriously and try to really pursue this. um, so the first book that I wrote that I queried didn't really go anywhere, which is fine. Like that's like part of the journey. So like I
Ah.
shelved that for now. But it was my second book that I queried that got me my agent and my book deal. So that was around 2021.
What?
Yeah, yeah,
Your second book?
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Second book. And
That is so
I
exciting.
feel like that's kind of common from, like, what I've heard from, like, other authors. It's around the second book is the one that gets them their agent or book deal, or, like, just, like, in the door. Sometimes it takes longer, but, I mean, I think that's just, like, kind of a lesson in perseverance. So if there are any writers out there who are, like, wanting to traditionally publish, just kind of keep at it for as long as you can, like, and also just kind of, like, keep yourself mentally stable as much as you can because it does take a lot out of you. Just like, it's a year's process in the making for a lot of
Mm.
us. So just
Mm.
don't get yourself down if it doesn't work out the first try.
Yeah. You know what? That actually brings me to another question, which is another one that I love to ask. And I guess I don't need the banner. I was like, I love my banners, but now I'm like, where's that banner? Because I have so many good questions for you. So, what would you say are some pros and cons to being an author? Then,
Oh goodness. I would say, well, like the pros for traditional publishing is that it really doesn't cost you any amount of money. And if there's anyone who's like
yes.
saying otherwise, got to run the other direction. That's
Mm.
red flags right there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I would say like that's probably like the biggest pro. Like if you're wanting to traditionally publish, um, you're not gonna go broke doing it. You might go broke mentally and like rejection wise. That
Oh,
might,
sure.
yeah, so it takes its toll in that way. So like that's its own con. And then also even when you do get an agent or a publishing deal, things like that, it's a waiting game. It's a long waiting game
Mm. Mm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
There are things that aren't always within your control. And so I think like that's why like a lot of people who do self-publish, which I respect them so much for doing that because I could never. If that does like you have like all of the control there, like where like just your cover, your edits, like what edits you implement, and like just like a whole lot of things, like just even how your book is marketed, how it's presented online, and things like that. All of that is within your control. So, uh, I would say like just choosing your journey kind of based on that
Yeah.
is probably the best. So like not everyone can do traditional publishing, just like not everyone can do self-publishing.
Mm.
So it's kind of a pick which path is the best for you as a
Yeah.
writer.
That's really smart. And that basically goes to the other question, which I did finally
Mhm.
find. What advice would you give to someone thinking about becoming an author? And I think that's essentially what you've been
Oh, yeah.
saying too. So
Mhm.
yeah, I love that. Okie dokie. So I wanted to make sure I'm looking at the comments here. And we've got a couple. I love this. Cheryl says, I just finished the book today and I loved it.
Yay!
I love it. And Christina, hi, Christina. She asked, how did you come up with this cover? Tell us about this.
Oh,
Tell us about
yes, a beautiful, beautiful cover.
love it.
So, how it works with traditional publishing, we're basically given a form of kind of like ideas we have for the cover, kind of maybe like recent covers that we like. So just kind of give an example of like what we're looking for, or like just kind of things that appeal to me, and then obviously like how the characters look like, any important themes and things like that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of just what I was answering in the form. And it's kind of funny because like for this one, I didn't really have like a like any like kind of big vision for like what I wanted the cover to look like. And then when they presented to me, I was like, this is perfect. Like this is everything I ever wanted.
It really is.
Yeah, but there
Really
were
is.
2 ideas that I had, that were actually implemented in the cover. So one
Oh,
was, I had kind of mentioned Lenny Kaufman's name is just kind of like an artist I'd been looking at and kind of following for a while, really liked their art style and things like that. So when they told me it was that Lenny Kaufman was doing the cover, I was literally like,
oh my gosh.
actually expect them to get her to do the cover, but the fact that they did was just like heart eyes forever. I love you.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, and then the second one was the clinch pose. So just them like embrace practically making out against the bookshelf. S
Oh,
I love it.
I
I
love it.
I love it. It's perfect. It is everything I didn't even know I wanted. Just
Yeah.
it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that was the thing, of course, that first drew me to it, and I mean, I just
Mhm.
yeah, it's just so good. It's just so perfect. I'm so glad you asked that question, Christina. And in fact, she just asked another one. Hey, Kristen, by the way. And then Christina also asked, going along with talking about pros and cons for authors and things like that, did you ever feel pressure to write certain books like smut or no plot, etc.? Like, do you feel any kind of pressure about we've talked to
Mhm.
other authors in the past that do feel like they have certain pressures to write certain
Mhm.
ways, and just if, whatever you feel comfortable answering.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I mean, when I was writing this book in particular, I didn't feel any of that pressure because it was basically like kind of a just for me, also like, sending it out into the universe, querying agents, querying, just kind of begging for someone to love me, basically. It's like, but I've never really felt pressure to, because I feel like the second that you kind of like give in to like those kind of outside voices telling you like, oh, like we don't like blonde male love interests, like is one of them, like they have to be dark haired and like whatever, and like
Okay.
I wrote a blonde love interest, so like that was one thing I was like, are people gonna like this? But I mean like,
Yes.
uh the one thing I but it's so funny because like this book has so many things I feel like that readers typically don't like. So like love triangle, love square is another one. Um and I just feel like the second that you kind of let those outside voices like in your head and kind of hold you back from writing, it's like when the
Mm,
fear sets in,
mm,
and that really like like it makes you hesitate at the keyboard, like, oh, like I
yeah,
don't know if the idea or like the story that I have in my head is going to be something that people want to read.
sure.
um but so I think for me, like I have to kind of shut all of that out, because
Smart.
if I let that get to me for too long, I will not write a word.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That's really see, again, good advice for
Yep.
anybody that wants to become a writer. I just saw a couple of these I wanna highlight. The cover is stunning. I especially love the color palette too. I know.
Oh yes, the pink and just all of like
Yes.
everything together in concert
Yes.
is just
Truly. I was enjoying it when I was hyping this and making trying to make a decent reel, and I got to experiment with new things as I was hyping this, and I just loved using these colors. Oh, it was so fun.
Mhm.
So, yeah, they were
Oh,
so
yeah, it's always fun for me on Canva whenever I'm doing, like, like marketing
Yes,
whatever posts and just using
yes.
all the colors. I'm like, ooh, this is so pretty.
Right? I know. I love Canva.
Oh
I love
yeah,
Canva.
it's very much a time suck, keeping me away from doing what I'm supposed to be doing in life. But I'm like, this is work.
I know, same. It's
Yeah,
such a great way to be creative too. I find
yeah,
myself I
it
wasn't sure
is.
if I would get pro. I went ahead and got the pro subscription or whatever it's called, and,
Oh yeah.
I'm on it every day. I'm on it
I'm
every
like this
day.
close to getting pro. It's like I'm almost
Oh!
on the pro pad.
I was doing a readathon or read along with with one of my pals, and she had canceled her pro subscription. And then she was missing it so much. She was throwing it at all of us who were in the readathon who had pro. And she's like, "Can you fix this for me? Can you do this for me?" Like, why did I stop? Why did I stop? By the way,
Oh.
I just want to let you guys know at home. July, this is so silly, but I don't want people to think that Gabby is making me cry. I July is my absolute worst month for allergies, and I'm
Oh,
feeling it today. I
yeah.
spent a lot of time outside yesterday like a genius. No, I was gonna have an interview today. So anyway, my allergies are acting up, and I apologize. But I want you to know that I'm not like, "Oh, Gabby."
Are there any onions in here?
Gabby's like, "Whatever, okay." Crazy person. Anyway, all right, so I just wanted to address that when you guys see me doing that. I just want you to know. Okay, doke. So I don't think we really talked about this yet. How did you get the idea to write this fabulous book?
Ooh, okay.
Oh, I can't
So
wait. I can't wait.
yeah, so I have a very vivid memory of this one. I don't always with certain ideas, but with this one I do. Because it kind of came as like a maladaptive daydream when I was at work, just kind of like shelving books. And it's
And
like
tell
one of the
oh, tell us what you do, by the way, Gabby, because I think that will help us all know
yeah,
what
so I'm a former library assistant. I'm not working in libraries anymore, but that's kind of what I was doing when I was writing this book. And so like kind of as I was saying, like just shelving books is kind of like one of those like menial tasks that's just like you kind of have to like keep your brain occupied like while you're doing like it's a very like physical task, but it also like very like monotonous in that
yeah.
way. So it kind of came just as like a maladaptive daydream, which like I see TikTok sometimes. It's like making up arguments in your head isn't exactly healthy for your overall mental health. And I was like, kind of working out for my career though, so far at least. But, I will pay attention to that next time. Yeah. So it basically came as that moment where Marcella is stopping Theo from confessing his feelings to Alice at the engagement party. So like that was just kind of like their voices in my head, and just kind of like this like argument back and forth. And then I think at some point I just kind of thought, this would probably make a really good idea for a book. And then that just kind of like sparked immediately. Like I had like the premise, I just like pulled out my phone for the notes app and just kind of like a bare bones outline for like the first like 5 or 10 chapters. And it was like, I need to go home so that I can write this. And then that's what I did. As soon as my shift was over, I was just like at the keyboard, like typing away. It was like the story just from there, basically, like it came together so well. This is probably the easiest book that I've ever written, which I cannot say for all of the books, but for this one, it does have that going for it. So
That's amazing to me too, because it's so complex and messy in parts, and for you to say
mhm.
that it was so easy, oh my gosh, I'm just so impressed. I wanna jump straight to my question about which is I'm gonna ask this one in a minute. Was it complicated to write a love square? And we'll talk about that. But let's first of all, just generally for those of us that don't know, there might be some people who haven't had the pleasure of reading this yet. So give us a little spiel. How would you describe this book for someone who doesn't know what it's about?
Yeah, so basically, the next best fling follows Marcella, who is a teen librarian, but she's kind of been kind of unlucky in love. She's been in love with her best friend for like the past 10 years. They kind of dated briefly when they were in college and then stayed friends, stayed very close, but that also kind of like didn't really give her a chance to move on. So she's kind of been pining for him all this time. And then um in in the beginning, in very like chapter 1, he kind of tells her that he's getting engaged to his longtime girlfriend, and then that's kind of like what sparks for her. It's like, yeah, I need to move on from this. Like, this is not healthy for me at this point. It's been 10 years. I need to be over this. Um, but before she can even really have a chance to do that, the engagement party comes, and her best friend's older brother, Theo, comes into town and decides that it would be a good idea to get really drunk at the engagement party and confess his feelings for his brother's fiance. But
Mhm.
luckily, he's not able to do that because Marcella kind of catches him and is able to stop him and convince him that it would be a terrible idea, and is just basically like, "Come back to my apartment, sleep it off on my couch. You'll know better in the morning. I hope. Here's hoping to talk you out of it if you're still, on this." Um, and so that's basically what happens. And then the next day, they go to the family brunch together the next morning. And when they arrive together, everyone kind of assumes that they hooked up the night before. And it kind of works in Theo's favor because they they don't want him to know, like, they don't want everyone to know what really happened. So they kind of roll with the lie, and then fake dating or fake hooking up kind of turns to real hooking up, and then things get very messy and very complicated and very chaotic very fast. So
Yeah. Don't they though?
oh yeah.
And
Oh
I was flipping those pages so fast.
yeah.
I was loving it. I was loving it. I was like,
Oh
"Yes, yes, it was
yeah.
so good." And I have to say, in a lot of these complex, like with the fake dating and, you know, the phrase rebound is thrown
Mm,
around quite
mhm.
a bit because they both are in love with someone else and they're sort of like each
Oh
other's
yeah.
rebound in a way.
Yeah.
And, I feel like you handled this so well because I can imagine very easily, and I've read so many contemporary romances where the heroine says things and makes choices, and you're like, "Why? I don't understand why." And I always, always, always felt like I understood Marcella and her where she was coming from. The fact that she has, I'm gonna use a cliche here, a heart of gold, because I really feel like she does. She really does. And she comes at it from a place of selflessness and she's struggling, but you always root for her.
Mhm.
And Theo, and he's not just some Theo is the I know we haven't used names, have we much? But Theo is our love interest and the
Mhm.
older or the is he the older brother of Ben?
Yes, he's the
Ye
older brother.
Okay, I couldn't remember if he's older or not. So the brother of Ben, the guy that she's had a crush on for at least 10 years. But
Mhm.
Theo also, we have these complex characters, all 4 of them. Alice, the gal that Theo's pining after. Ben, the guy that she's been pining that, Marcella's been pining after. Theo, Marcella herself, these complex people. There's good and bad, I feel like, kind of in all of them, and I just am so impressed with how you did this and how you handle it, and you really understand where everyone is coming from, and we've got these shades of gray.
Thank you.
Mm, so good, so good. So, then now I will ask the question officially, was it complicated to write a love square? Every everybody's in love with somebody else?
In the beginning, it really wasn't. As I was like kind of drafting through the beginning and middle, I kind of felt like I knew where each character was coming from and
Mm,
just kind of like their role in the square, so to speak.
yeah.
It wasn't until I got to the third act that I was like, "Oh shit, what have I done? how how am I gonna get everyone out of this?" That was like, I remember getting there and then kind of being like, "Oh my god, how do I how do I wrap this up? Like, what do I do?" And so that was actually like one of the aspects that I worked on with my editor a lot,
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm really thankful for her. Just like all of her notes. I worked with two. I worked with my editor and her editor's assistant, and they both had really, really great notes,
Mm,
just on everything in general, and then also just kind of on how everything was resolved and how we wanted everything to be resolved. I felt like we were kind of like on the same wavelength about everything, and that's the sign that you have a great editor, that like you agree with like all of their notes and you're like, yeah, I did that. I need to fix that. I did that. I need to fix that. I have an idea now of how I want to fix that. And so
Nice.
um that's how like we kind of like worked on the third act probably the most out of like the entire book. It was the third act and then also
Mm.
just the ending in general. I think I ended up rewriting it from scratch. And I love that last chapter so much now. Like that's probably my favorite scene in the entire book is the last chapter.
Oh,
Um
we'll talk more about that at the end of
oh
the
yeah,
interview. We don't wanna
spoilers.
give any
Spoiler section.
oh, 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 it's so exciting. Oh my gosh, I love it. And collaboration. What was it strange at all to be working with an editor at first, or did it take some getting used to?
I wouldn't say it was really strange because it's very similar to working with a critique partner, which I think
Oh.
is very like good for you like as a writer just to have someone else like read your work and kind of just like say like these things could be better and like you might agree with them, you might not, but I think just having that kind of interaction and dynamic with anyone improves your
Mm,
writing and it kind of
mhm.
like tells you like I think it just strengthens you as a writer overall and just kind of like learning what works in your story versus what doesn't. And
Yes.
it's kind of the same when you're reading someone else's pages too. I think that also helps you kind of see maybe like some things that are wrong in your manuscript as well. And you're like, okay, now we get to go back and do this.
That.
It was kind of similar to that, but then, um, yeah, just I don't know that there were, like, too many things that we disagreed on. There might have been, like, 1 or 2 things, but it's just I think it's just a matter of, like, that open communication with them about, your vision for the
Mm.
book. It's not like you have some tyrant standing over you being like, "You have to rewrite all of this," or
Thank
"We're
goodness.
terminating your contract," or something like that. It's not. It's very much not like that. It's very collaborative. It's
I
very, like,
love it.
everyone is open to like hearing everyone's ideas and how this story can be better. And it was
Mhm.
just a great experience, I would say.
That's wonderful. And we have a great question here from Tara that goes along with what we're talking about. What is the process of coming up with a title?
Ooh. Okay, so my title came very late in the game. So I had my original title. So when the book was sold, so it was originally called Rebounds Finish Last. And then
Oh,
yeah,
I
and
love
then
it. I
it
love
was around the time that, my publisher was kind of discussing the cover that I think maybe, like, someone from the sales team or, like, from the marketing team was kind of like, "Oh, so it's a basketball romance because rebounds," and I was like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
no.
no, that's not it." So, my editor kind of came to me and was like, "Yeah, we probably need a different title," and I was kind of like, I'm very attached to my old title, like, and
Oh.
in some ways I still am, but I
Yeah.
do really love the new title. My agent was actually the one who came up with it. So,
Okay. I
she
love it.
so I kind of, like, basically, like, emailed her after that. I was like, "I don't know how to title anything anymore. Please help." And then she kind of, like, came back with a list of, like, possible titles, and then I sent them to my editor, and we kind of, like, talked about, like, how we felt about each one. And The Next Best Fling is the one that we landed on. So it was kind of very late in the game, actually. Like, we already had the cover sketch, we just didn't have, like, any any written
Text.
words on it because we were still coming up with the title.
Just a picture. You know what? That would've just sold it anyway. You
Oh, yeah,
you
just
don't
the
need
cover, just the art,
just
honestly.
the
We
art.
don't need the title on there.
Bingo, yeah, who needs it? Who needs it? Okay, I'm sure you probably don't remember, but do you remember any of the other titles that were thrown around? I think that'd be so fun to know, but I'm sure you probably don't remember.
Ooh. I think
So
there was one that was, like, a ruse for 2. It was, like, the fake dating kind of aspect. I was like,
oh, a
that sounds
ruse for 2,
interesting." And then
like table for 2.
yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
exactly. And then, I think that's the only one that I remember, but, like, there were
Okay.
other ones that I think, like, they were also, like, pretty fun like that, but then,
Yeah.
The Next Best Fling, like, was the one that
So good. So good. So let's talk more about the heroine,
Yes.
Marcella, our girl. I love her
Mhm.
so much.
We love her.
Love her so much. So tell me about talk about her a little bit, and then I might ask more follow-up questions because I just love her.
Yeah, so Marcella, she's a teen librarian. she is also a Mexican American kind of plus size character, and I love her so much. Like, I think when I was writing her, like, I had kind of like gone back and forth about like what her career should be.
Mm.
And then I mean, I was working at a library at the time, so it was kind of like a duh moment. So it's like, why not make her a teen librarian? Like, I'm working under a teen librarian right now. Like, this would be very cool. Like,
Yeah.
and then I think what I love most about her is just kind of like her passion for her community and where she works, and like making sure that the kids she's working with can see themselves in the books that they're reading. That's something
Yes.
that's very important to her. And I
Yes.
think that's something very important in general that we talk about now that, book bannings are kind of popping up everywhere. It is just terrible to see, like, these people who have no idea what they're doing because they don't work in these spaces, and just kind
Yeah.
of like dictate what the librarian's job should be, even though they've never been a librarian in a day in their lives.
Right.
It's really just coming from like a place of bigotry, like that we can see. But I
Yeah.
mean, like, that's why it was also so important to me, like, to have this character, Marcella, just like in the workspace, like kind of looking after these kids, right?
Yeah.
I think I was already editing this story when like these things kind of started popping up. So I was just kind of like looking at the passages like of in her workplaces and kind of emphasizing those a little more. Just because just like it is something that frustrates me so much. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I just think like, yeah, like it's really important. Librarians do such a fantastic job when they're allowed to do their job. And I
Mm.
think that we should, listen to what the librarians are saying and like what their job needs to be. So, yeah.
Yes. Oh, man, do I agree. I love that part. I actually highlighted it. I'm not gonna read from it because I didn't ask you in advance, and I also highlighted it in the ARC in case they always say, like, "They might change something, so don't you dare use a quote from the ARC."
They always give that warning.
Right? Because you never know, and, they might
Yeah.
change it. But I love the conversation she has with Theo where she just talks about basically echoing what you just said, the importance of having a community where people can go and see
Mhm.
themselves represented in the characters, and also not having books like, if there's books that the newest one is 10 years old, there is a problem.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I feel like this was another opportunity not only just to spout out about what you're saying, the importance of the community aspect, the importance of the variety of characters. I was like, this is so meta because same thing with your book. Here we have a Mexican American librarian who's plus size, and I'm like, she's doing it right now. She's doing it right now. She's talking about it in the book. I loved it. Oh my gosh, it was so great. But the other reason that I loved that aspect was we learn even more about Marcella's heart and what a giving person she is. She obviously comes
Mhm.
to Theo's rescue. She has empathy for him, despite the fact that he's kind of a mess here and there. And I think it's warranted. I think it's warranted. But when she mentions donating books, she doesn't just sell things if she has too many, and she takes her favorites and will then give them to the library. I just thought this gal, I just love her. You just want the best for her. So I love that. The other aspect of her, aside from being a librarian, I loved learning more about the Mexican American culture. Is there anything that you want to speak to regarding that?
I think it's, you know, when we talked about kind of like my writing journey of like always like wanting to be a writer.
Yeah.
I didn't always write Mexican American characters just because, the books that I was reading when I was, a teen or like in middle school and high school, they were all white basically. Like that was kind of the landscape of YA back then as I was
Mm,
growing up. And
yeah.
something that I've loved seeing is like how much that has changed,
Yes.
especially in YA. Like we're seeing like more and more. And I mean, like there are always like, s- blind spots that need to be addressed. And I feel
Yes.
like you could even say that about romance in general. Just, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
so like progress is very slow. Like I will say, like it has always been very slow. But I mean, I think the fact that it is happening is important and great. And that's why we should always like try to support uh those marginalized marginalized authors, and then with marginalized characters as much
Yes,
as we possibly can. Like that is very important,
absolutely.
and just
Mm,
in telling publishing that these books are wanted, these
ye
books are needed.
yes.
So like that's kind of my spiel on that of just
Mhm.
I love Marcella as a character. I love getting to write my own culture. And then I think the most beautiful thing that has kind of come out of this is like seeing other reviewers and people online who are reading my book who also share that culture with me, just being so happy and proud that this book exists. And that's always something that just, like
Yes.
makes all of this worth it.
Truly. And again, talking about some of the ways that she's so unique, as a character and in ways that we want to see more of in more books. I'm as a plus size woman myself, I love to see plus size representation in books. And
Yeah.
again, this is me not ragging on the contemporary romance like book community, but so many times when I see a plus size heroine, her story, a huge part of her story is she has a terrible relationship with her mother, and her mother was always ragging on her about, you need to weigh yourself or you need to join whatever, blah, 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 and or there's a lot of bullying backstory.
Mm,
I mean, it makes up a lot of the plot, but in a very negative way. And
mm,
so I adored how you incorporated anything that was related to body image into this book. It seems like she's on a great path to self-acceptance, body acceptance. I love the part, again, I highlighted it, but I'm not going to read it because it's in the arc and I didn't ask it first. But she talks about like, I'm not going to just like some parts of me and not like other parts of me, and why is it my job to be carrying around other people's opinions of my body? That's not my job. So she's already come to a great place of acceptance, and it's in the background. It's just part of her.
mhm.
And I just loved that. Oh gosh, and I just lost my train of thought. Oh no. Oh, I really wanted to say it too. So, well, maybe I'll go on because I don't want people to be like looking at me while I'm thinking. But it was something
No,
about,
yeah, but I mean,
yeah,
like,
no, please,
I'll just
please,
say
please do.
okay, like, I'll just say, like, while you're thinking that, um
Like, maybe I could talk once.
like, yeah,
Alright.
like, I think just being able to write that about her I think I got to explore just, like, a lot of things that, like, I even think about, my own body or, like, my own self, just kind of, like, getting to explore, like, all of those things through Marcella was
Yeah,
a really great experience for me,
yes.
and then also just, um, you know, just highlighting that body acceptance isn't always a linear journey. It isn't
Yes.
ever a linear journey. Like you're always like it I think it's something that you have to challenge yourself every day because we do
Mm,
live in a very fat phobic society. We're always going to like we might see something online that is kind of triggering or just kind of like sets us back. Um, but we can't always like let those things hold us back from just accepting ourselves for who we are and like what we look like. And just like these are the things about ourselves that we should love because this is the body we're in. This is the body that carries us through life. And there's something very beautiful about that. Um,
yes.
even if other people don't think so, which we don't need to listen to them.
Exactly. We don't need to hear everyone's opinions.
Like,
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I love that, and that's just one of the beauty parts about reading a book is getting to see that other people feel the way that you feel, or just to inspire others to feel the way that the character feels. I love that, and again, now I was remembering what I was gonna say. It felt so real when you see that again, what you just said, it's not linear. She was mostly, for the most part, fine, but then
Mhm,
every once in a while, a little bit of insecurity cropped up in certain situations. And I thought,
mhm,
"Oh, that's so I can just so relate to that."
mhm.
And I think that the audience is going to relate to that and then some, I love it. I love it so
Thank
much. So,
you.
thank you for writing Marcella. I think it's the takeaway here. I just adore her. I adore her. Okie doke. So I'm gonna take a little departure from the plot. I'm gonna make sure there weren't any other quick questions about the plot because I don't want to miss anything. Again, we're gonna talk about things related to spoilers in a little bit. Oh, Christina says it's really great to see a book with a real woman on the cover and not an airbrushed version. Yeah, Yeah, I
Mm.
do love that. She also asked another great question. Where can you buy the next best fling?
Yes, so great question. You can find it at Barnes& and Noble. Um, I You can also find it at your local indie, if they're especially if they're, like, romance friendly, which I think a lot of, indie bookstores are now, like, becoming more romance friendly, which we always love to see. So that's where you can find it if you're looking in person. Chapters Indigo if you're in Canada. Um,
Ooh.
I what's the chain in England? Because it is in the UK as well. I always forget
Is it
what theirs is.
Blackwell's? It might not be.
Maybe. It possibly could
Let's
be.
look it up.
Uh, yeah,
I'll
so it's
I'll
in
find out.
like, the chain bookstores. If you can't find it on the shelves, you can also order it online from, their websites, or it's also on Amazon as well. Uh,
Wherever books are sold.
wherever books are sold.
Wherever books are sold. Yes, and I also if you have Libby, the Libby app, you can
Yes,
find it
your local
there depending
library,
on your library will hopefully have it. I mean, hopefully, come on, it's a
hopefully.
library. It's a li they need it. If they don't have it.
I have been seeing some pictures, like, from libraries of just, like, seeing it there, like, all tagged up and everything, like, "Oh, that's so
Oh,
beautiful."
I love it,
Full
I love it.
circle
Again,
moment.
it's sort of like meta again, I just love that, I love that. If it's
Mhm.
not at your library, be sure to request it because you
Yeah.
need it. I saw it on my Libby in all the various libraries that I have library cards in. Oh, yeah, I know. And then it's not on Hoopla yet,
Hmm,
not on any play yet, not
could be
Kindle
maybe
Unlimited, but you
in the
could get
future.
Kindle, but it's not Kindle Unlimited. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I said could be in the future for Hoopla, just crossing my fingers. They change their catalog a lot too, so you
Yes.
never know.
Yes, that is true, that is true. I love it. Hey, Rachel. Oh, yeah, Tara says, "Love a plus size heroine."
We do, we do.
Ooh, another great question. Does Marcella's personality reflect you at all?
Ooh,
Ooh, I love it, Tara.
hmm. I think in some ways, like, I think there are, like, definitely things about her personality that I have given. So, like, the pumpkin empanadas, that's like my favorite pan dulce to eat. Um,
Ooh,
it's been like a favorite since I was like very little. So I think just writing that in the book was like a great thing.
that's
But I do feel like personality wise, I probably more of an Angela, her best friend.
let's talk about Angela.
Okay.
Oh, we haven't even talked about Angela. Oh, I'm so excited. Let's talk about Angela. Oh boy. Or is there anything else to say about Angela? He's her best friend.
Yes, Marcella's true best friend, not Ben, Angela over here. I think she was just a very great character to write. I always love writing best friends. Like, they're
Mhm.
always the ones who are kind of the ones who, like, call you on your shit and just kind of, like, make sure, like, you're going on the right path and is not afraid to
Yeah.
show you or tell you.
Yeah.
She's a lot more outgoing, I would say, than Marcella, which is not to say that I'm outgoing, but I think I'm probably more of, like, an ambivert where I can, like, turn it on and off when I need to, type of
Mm.
thing, and that's kind of more so how I see Angela.
Okay.
You do see her a lot more when she gets her book.
I
I think
was hoping you were gonna say that today. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, I'm so excited. And we'll talk about that
Oh, yeah, yeah.
later.
So we can maybe talk about that a little later of, like, what to expect, but yeah, Angela, I think uh she's just a really great character who kind of is not afraid to tell it how it is, does not give two shits what anyone really thinks about her.
Well, I remember Theo has to impress Angela
Oh,
in
yeah.
order to
Oh, yeah.
actually
You
I
always
love
have to
that.
get the best friend's approval. You
Yes,
always have to.
yes, that's right, that's right. Oh, I love it,
Mhm.
I love it. Cheryl said Waterstones is in the company in
Oh, for
England.
UK, yeah, yeah.
Yep,
I think that's the one.
I knew there was water in there somewhere. Thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl keeps
Thank
me
you, yes.
honest. If it weren't for the people at home, I don't know what I would do.
Oh, yeah.
The chat, the people in the chat save me.
Doing us a service.
That's truly. Okay, let's see. We've talked about the heron. All right. I need to talk about the Spotify playlist.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh my gosh. Can I even tell you how much I've listened to that sound? I'm calling it a soundtrack. I'm calling it a soundtrack.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
exceptional, exceptional. Did you choose the music for this? I have to know.
I did. So I had my original writing playlist for this project, and then when I made this one, like the more like official one, that's been like on social media and like some of like the letters that have been sent out. I
Yes.
basically just picked the most played songs from that playlist because there's like 100 songs or something on the original playlist, and I was like, I did not listen to all of them. I think I just played like the most played and also the ones that I thought were like most relevant, maybe like lyric wise or like theme wise, just in the song for
Yes.
that playlist. Yeah, so they were all on the original playlist. The most played probably like throughout the drafting process. So yeah.
I love it. If you guys have Spotify, I cannot recommend it to you highly enough.
Mhm.
I'm going through and listening and being like, "Oh, this reminds me of Theo and Marcella, or how they were
Yes,
thinking."
yes.
I mean,
I have that so much, like, whenever I listen to, like, those songs I don't listen to them very often anymore because now I'm in other writing playlists,
oh,
but yeah, so just whenever I listen to those, I'm like, "This is so nostalgic for me." Just thinking about them all over again.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, cannot recommend it highly enough. So excited. I love that so much. Would you ever do in the future? I know this is not exactly the same thing, but you know how sometimes in contemporary romance, for example, each chapter will have like an artist name and then a title at the beginning of each chapter. Is that something that you would ever want to do, or if you haven't even
I've
considered it?
kind of thought about it just as far as, like, chapter titles and things like that. I don't know if I could do it for every single chapter, so I think
Yeah,
that's
that would
just
be hard.
one thing that's kind of holding me back, but, you never know. You never know.
Like this book took a year longer to publish because I had to find the right song for
Yes, it
every.
had to be perfect.
There you go. I love it. Okie doke. So we've had a chance to talk about why, how old you were when you started writing, but I would love to know who your greatest influences are and as
Ooh,
writers or whatever. Other writers.
I think this is a good question. I'm always kind of thinking about that too, and I think I mostly have to go back to the beginning a little of like when I first started reading romance. So, I was a huge YA reader when I was in high school. So Sarah Dessen was my queen.
Oh, yes.
She's ah, just I read so many of her books, probably all of her books, when I was
Oh.
in high school. So like she is definitely like a big early influence on me. Um, and then when I was getting into adult romance, I believe my first adult romance that I just fell in love with immediately was Cora Carmack's Losing It. Uh,
I'm gonna write that down.
yeah, so it has an illustrated cover now, but back then it had, like the scandalous half-naked people in bed on the cover. So I was in Target just like hiding the cover from my mom so she wouldn't see the checkout line. And then I got home and like I think I read it like in a day, if not 2 days, something like that. I just immediately got sucked in, was like, I love this, read all of her other books, fell in love, kind of got more into adult romance as a genre, and just fell in love immediately. So like those are very like early influences for me. I also think
Mhm.
just something about Helen Huang. Like she was another one
Yes.
that like I think she's also like an author who kind of made me reevaluate what I thought romance could be, or like any like preconceived notions about like what the genre was and had a possibility to be. She kind of changed the game in general for me, like Helen Wong. So she's like another like huge one for me.
Oh my gosh. Have you gotten to meet any of these authors since you've gotten started?
No, I haven't. I would love to,
I'm
though.
sure
I
you
would
will.
really love to.
I'm sure you will. Oh, that would be so fun. That would be fun.
Oh yeah.
So what's your writing process like? Where do you write? When do you write? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I mostly write at home. Um I would say I'm probably more of like a night writer. I have to have like my routine. Like I have to have my coffee, I have to have my laptop here, have to have the the writing playlist. I have to have the perfect song. I cannot start without the perfect song, and then I'm just like going. So
I
yeah, I would
love
say
it.
mostly at night. I think now, like it was like I've been kind of training myself to become a day in the daytime writer. But I still feel like I work best at night when like it's quiet and everything, and I'm just like I can be in the zone. There's no distractions of like other things that I'm having to do or like needing to do.
Yeah.
So I would say like that's kind of like my perfect writing
Nice.
day.
Nice. Oh, I love it. And you had mentioned that you in the past you were a library assistant. Is that the phrase? How you would is that the kind of
Yes. Mhm.
now, but you're not doing that currently, you said.
Not currently, no.
Are you focusing specifically on writing?
Yeah, so right now I'm kind of like, I guess, accidental full-time writer, you could say, kind of fell into. Yeah, like
That's so
we'll see if
exciting.
like I have thought about going back to library assistancing or even like as a library aide, just like shelving the books. Um,
Sure.
yeah, but we'll see what happens in the future. So.
If you need to come up with more ideas, more maladaptive thoughts or whatever
Oh
however
yeah,
you
yeah,
say
yeah.
it.
Just something to
Go
keep your mind
shelve.
going.
Go
Yeah,
shelve one day and then you come up with your next book.
exactly, exactly.
There you go, there you go. Okie doke. So, now I need to ask, I'm so excited for this answer because I don't know. What's on the horizon, Gabby? What's coming up?
What?
Answer that however you want. Books, events, if you're coming somewhere, if there's some kind of another interview or whatever you feel like sharing, we wanna know. We wanna know.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with events because I do have a few coming up in the future.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
so next week, or I guess this week since it's Sunday, however you
Oh,
see
yeah.
your calendar days. Um, on Saturday, I do have a signing at the new Barnes and Noble in Selma that opened up. So if you're in the San Antonio Selma area, if you want
Nice.
to just check out a brand new Barnes and Noble that just recently opened up, I will be there on
Ooh.
Saturday.
Ooh.
I will be there at 1, I believe, at 1 p.m. But I mean, we'll talk about it more like on Instagram or a
Yeah,
newsletter somewhere. Like I'll
yeah,
definitely shout it out again if
yeah.
I forget.
Nice.
So that's something that's on the horizon. I may be taking a trip to Dallas next month. So if you're in the Dallas area, I might be there. You might hear more later.
She's just gonna be in Dallas. You just need to
Yeah,
look for
yeah, just walking around. Just walking around chilling, looking at
have a coffee in her hand.
yeah,
Just it's
yeah,
like,
ice
"Where's
coffee,
Waldo?
perfect.
Where's
Yeah,
Dad?"
but more information on that to come.
Yes.
And as far as like writing wise, I hinted a little about a certain best friend possibly getting her book, possibly falling in love. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yes.
Yeah. And then um yeah. I mean I'm also working on, my own secret projects that I'm definitely not allowed to tell you about yet, but
Okay.
you'll find out
Well,
eventually.
we respect that, and we're excited to know that there are secret projects. That's exciting.
Oh yeah, there's definitely more on the
Oh
horizon
my
for
gosh.
sure, for sure.
So, if is there potential and don't just be like, "No, I can't answer that." But is there, like, a potential that Angela might get her book in 2025?
You
Maybe?
know,
Or you don't have to
it
answer?
may be on the calendar for 2025. There are no guarantees in
Okay.
publishing, like there are always like, unexpected setbacks. So I'm not going to say for sure.
Oh,
I
sure.
will say that is the plan is to
Got it.
get it on the on the calendar in 2025. Whether that
Yes.
will happen is another thing to
Okay.
to be seen.
Okay. We respect that. We understand. Okay. So now comes two that we could go one of two ways, Gabby. We can either play a silly game that's more like getting to know you, which I'm excited about, called the next best thing as opposed to the next best fling, or we can do spoilers. So, what do you think? Do you have a preference or do you want me to ask our friends at home?
I would say we can do the game. Whether or not I will remember my answers is another thing. So
I
I'm
have them
like,
all right here. I have them. So if you're like, what did I say for that? I'm like, you said.
I'm like, cheat sheet. Go into
I
my
always try to come prepared, you know? And besides, I don't think they're all your answers. So it's not like you can be wrong. I mean, whatever you
That's true.
say.
I can just make up
You're
something
not going to be like,
completely
when I
different.
ask you what your favorite color is and you say whatever, I'm not going to be like, you said green in the email, you know?
Like, folks, she's a liar.
News at 11, news flash. Yes. I love it. I love it. All right. So here it is. The next best thing. I can't wait. We're all going to get to learn more about Gabby. First, I've got 5 questions that are specific to her, and then 5 questions that are book related. So I thought this would be fun. The next best thing. You said your favorite color is blue, but if you can't have blue, you'd have.
I would probably have pink. Because I
There you
feel like
go.
my life right now is just full of pink because of
Yeah.
the color, and I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it. Pink is a
Yeah,
great color.
it is. So beautiful. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful. I love it. Okay. For food, you said that your favorite food was potato and egg tacos, which yum.
Oh,
OMG.
okay.
But if you can't have that, the next best thing is.
Probably bean and cheese tacos.
So we like tacos.
The breakfast tacos that you can have. Best thing to the
Yeah.
next, but the next best thing. The bean
Mm.
and cheese.
Now, do you make these yourself or do we get these from a particular like fast food or freezer section or
So,
I'm
so
curious. I
we
want to know.
So we make them at home. My mom makes them the best. Actually, my dad
Ooh.
makes them the best, but he never
Ooh.
cooks, so he just deprives us all the time. So they make them the best. But as far as bean and cheese, I have to usually go out for that. Um, I need to find a good place for that though, or just learn how to make it myself because I feel like I've recently just been learning to cook at home and kind of make everything exactly the way I want to eat it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm still working on that. I'm not.
I understand, believe me.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So your favorite movie is Pride and Prejudice from 2005.
Yeah.
But if you can't have that, the next best thing is.
You've Got Mail, definitely, probably. Also helps that it's kind of an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, so it's like keeping it in the family a little bit.
I never thought about that.
Yeah,
I
I
love
watched
that.
that movie so many times to know. And we even talk about Pride and Prejudice too, and, like, there are definitely, like, elements of it in
Oh
there,
my
so,
gosh. I
yeah.
love that. I haven't seen that movie in ages, but I do love a good Tom
It's a
Hanks
comfort
moment
movie.
and
I have to watch it every year when it comes on Max or, like, HBO Max.
oh. Oh, I love it. I love it. And that's about the bookshop, right? Like the little
Yes,
bookshop.
yeah. Which,
See?
listen, I know it's terrible that he closes down her bookshop is the reason that it goes out of business, but, like, I can't help it, okay? I can't help
I
it.
I've heard that so many times.
Mhm.
People love it, but
Yeah,
then they say the exact same thing you say.
yeah.
They're like,
I'm like, "Listen, I understand the people who don't like it for that reason. I
yeah,
get it. I
yeah.
do. I'm gonna keep on loving it, though."
I think Tom Hanks is one of the few people that, like, make it okay. It's like, but
Yeah,
it's
he could pull it
fine.
off somehow.
I know, right? He can pull off anything.
Mhm.
I tell
Yeah.
you, I love it. So, musical artist, your favorite is Taylor Swift, but if you
Mhm.
can't, the next best thing would be.
Allie and AJ, for those who don't know and only knew them in their Disney Channel days, they have made a comeback. They're making incredible music. I cannot just overstate that enough. Incredible. So if you haven't tuned back into them, you definitely should.
Excellent. Now, okay, this is a silly question. I don't remember. Is Allie and AJ, are they on the playlist? I don't remember them being on it. Not
They
that they're
should be.
supposed to be. I'm just thinking out loud.
Hmm.
I didn't
I
ask
think
you.
they are. I'd have to
Good.
go back and check, but
Now I need to look too.
I'm like 90% sure at least that they
Okay.
are.
I'll
But
take it. 90s. Hey, 90s good. That's more certain than I am about half the things I say on here. Oh, goodness. Okay. And then we have another really good question. Okay, I'm gonna interrupt my game because we have a really great question. Christina
Okay.
asked, "What would your dream library look like?" Oh, I love this question, Christina.
Um, just surrounded on all sides by books, which I'm getting there. I
Yeah.
have one wall. I need the wall in front of me. Actually, more bookshelves, more books. Just move my desk in the middle of the room. So I'm so close to having my dream library actually, which is amazing that I can even say that. So
Oh, yeah, it's pretty. I love the lights and all the colors. Oh, it's great.
yes, thank you. I would turn the lights on, but then it would be like blurred, which
Oh, no, yeah.
yeah. So like we're not gonna do that right now.
I totally no, I totally get it. I totally get it. No, like, "Please stop the interview so you can go turn those lights on. We'll wait." No, I'm kidding.
I have
But that
even
was
worse vision of what you can see.
I love it. Oh my goodness, too funny. Okie dokie. So, vacation destination, the one that you like the most, Edinburgh. But if you can't have that, the next best thing or place is
Probably London, and also, I'm gonna be, honest, this was 100% a cheat because I do have a trip planned to both of these places. But I would say because I'm the most excited for Edinburgh just because of how many clips I get on TikTok of the city and just it looks so beautiful. It looks so beautiful. I
Ooh.
just wanna be there and walk around and vibe and just I'm so
Mm,
excited.
I wanna go there someday, for their rare book signing.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Oh my
so
goodness.
cool. I always see the authors that are there, and I'm like, "I wanna go."
It's like I wanna be there too.
Right? I know, right? Oh my gosh, so true. Okay, now here come the 5 questions that are book related.
Mm.
Can't wait. Now your favorite trope is fake dating. Well, who would have thought based on this book?
Yeah, who knew? Who knew? Not me.
But but if you can't have that, the next best thing is?
Probably Marriage of Convenience, because again, a little bit of a cheat because they're kinda like sister tropes, but I
Yeah.
have been getting into it a lot just with, like, especially historical romance, like, there's
Yes.
something about it that hits, and it hits so good. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know how y'all do it, like, what sorcery are you putting in your books?" But I'm gonna eat it up every time.
I just love oh my gosh, I love it so much. And I'm sure you can't answer this, but does Angela then have, maybe a little marriage of convenience? You probably can't tell me.
I will say not a marriage of convenience, but I will not tell you which tropes are involved.
Okay, okay, that's fair, that's fair. Okay, alright. Alright, so your favorite type of hero is a cinnamon roll hero, which girl,
Mhm.
mhm,
Oh,
mhm,
yeah.
absolutely. If you can't have that though, the next best thing is?
There's just something about a broken hero that is so hot.
So
I know it's
hot!
really bad to even say, but it's just
Oh!
something about he's broken down, possibly by the heroine, um, or
Ooh.
wreck, a complete wreck. There's just again something about that I'm gonna eat up every time, and I get them a lot in historicals. I feel like I feel like I don't get them that often in contemporary. I kind of wish I did,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's just another thing that I'm gonna eat it up
Mm,
every time.
yes, delicious,
Mhm.
delicious. Okay, your favorite way to read a book is a physical book, either an ebook oh, wait, no,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
no,
that's
no.
I definitely cheated on that one.
I'm looking at it now, and I'm like, "Wait, what did I do?" So, a physical book,
Mhm.
but if you can't have that, now that I've destroyed this question, what would you do? We're gonna pretend that didn't go poorly. How would you read a book
Um,
if you had a
I
physical
would
book?
probably say ebook, just because I feel like that's probably the most convenient way to read. It's just like you can take it literally anywhere, take it by the pool, just put it in your purse, and it's so small and teeny tiny.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so yeah, but also, like, I would just say in general, I'm constantly interchanging between all 3, between physical, ebook, audiobook. I literally have no preference, really, it feels like, unless I'm traveling, and then it's ebook. So
Yeah, good call. I remember back in the day, I had, like, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and I was trying to fit it in my suitcase. It was just It's like, what am I doing? I might as well be taking the dictionary. Like, this is ridiculous.
I know. I've definitely done that before, and then I started illegally downloading the PDFs, which, I mean, I know we're not supposed to do that, but I mean, she's kind of a terrible person in general anyway, so I don't know. So yeah, I
Oh,
remember, like, when I was rereading them, I was like, I don't want to take the big old thing, so I'm just gonna. I remember
no.
I was straightening my hair, reading the book, just like, on like my iPad, and just being like, this is so convenient. You can multitask in so many different ways.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. I love it. I love it. Okie doke. Your favorite genre is romance. But if it can't be romance, the next best thing is.
Definitely fantasy. I was definitely in my fantasy era for a good long while in college. I mean, you could probably see the books behind me. Like, I like
Yeah.
YA fantasy, adult fantasy, and then it blends into romance.
Yep.
Um, yeah. So, and I still do. Like, we're seeing like more of a rise of like the romantasy coming back in, which we love to see it,
Yes.
especially just
Yes.
like as like a fantasy girly like from then, and just I think about reading, like, I still have books on my TBR of, like, that are like epic fantasies, and I'm like, I'm gonna get to you someday, but am I? Because it's been a couple years now, and like I'm just, like, full tailed into romance right now, so who
Yeah.
knows when I'll ever get to those, but
You never know.
you
You
never
never know.
know.
And then, of course, I'm sure you can't answer this. I'm coming with all these questions I didn't say in the email. I'm so sorry. And just say, I can't answer that if you want. And we will respect that. But like, would you ever do romantasy as an author? Do you think?
Oh, as much as I would love to say yes, I don't know if I have it in me. Because there are a few ideas where like I've tried and like I've dabbled, but I just feel like that's not my strength in like coming up with like a fantasy world and like world building to that extent, and like magic systems and everything to do with that. I will say never, because who knows, I might try again one day when I'm a better writer and I can actually do it. But for now, probably not. But you never know.
Yeah, you never know. It's so funny. There was a gal that I met at a Polycon, and
Mhm.
she is a clean contemporary romance author, and now she's publishing her first romantasy, which I was like,
Oh,
"What?" And then there was another gal I was talking to, she was a cozy mystery writer, and she's
mm.
gonna be writing her first romance.
Ooh,
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." I just
you love the genre switches. I feel like I
Right?
wish I could. Who knows? Maybe in the future I will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really love when authors are able to do that and just
Yes,
kind of like
yes.
explore like different genres and different things like that. Like, that's so cool.
Truly. There was a Christmas book I read last year, and it was by she had a pseudonym, so she could write her Christmas romance, and it was really exciting. There were, like, perilous scenes in it, and I was so used to,
Ooh.
like, the vanilla Christmas contemporary romance where, "Oh, we
Mm.
gotta save the coffee shop, and
Oh,
I need
yeah.
to make some
Hallmark.
cookies."
Yeah.
Yes, exactly, 100%. Anyway, she's a suspense writer, typically. I was like, "Well,
Mhm.
there it is. Bam." I thought
Yeah.
that was fascinating.
The versatility.
Yeah, right? Right?
Mhm.
Okay, so the last question before we get to spoilers. Favorite place to read? You had said your reading chair, but if you can't have your reading chair, your next best thing is.
Probably my bed, but that's if I don't fall asleep first.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, thank you for indulging me and playing my game. I had to I love to do little games when I do lives as much as I
I
can,
love
so
it.
all right, so here we go, guys. As promised, spoiler time. Run away if you haven't read the book yet. I'm gonna leave this at the bottom because my giant dog is here. Sorry. I think he'll be fine. He's mellowed out since we adopted him. Up as I'm
Oh.
speaking. He's ginormous. Anyway, so I'll leave this on the bottom. We'll make sure if anybody pops on and they see this and they can get out of here because I don't want to ruin anything for people that haven't enjoyed this yet. But I know there's people here who have already read the book, and if they have particular questions, this is the time to ask. We can find out anything we want to know I'm so excited. So, I'm gonna start off, one of my big questions for you, w what do you think this is so vague, but I think as we talk about it, it'll get fleshed out more.
Okay.
What do you think about Ben? I ah, man, I tell you, I really liked him at first.
Mhm.
As the book went on, I really had a hard time with him,
Oh, yeah.
you know? And I just wanna get a sense of your thoughts on Ben. And of course, everybody else that wants to chime in too, feel free. But yeah, him as a character, I was like, "Oh, man."
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's very hateable. I get a lot of messages from readers being like, "I hate this man. Is someone gonna punch him out?"
Oh! Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't wanna get too toxic, so we do not see Ben get punched, even though he would definitely deserve it.
Right.
Ben as a character, I think, is very interesting, and, I think something that I kind of realized but didn't realize as much, but just from, like, talking to, like, other readers, just seeing that, like, they've had guys like him in their life and just kind of, like, who have just kind of, like, either, like, mistreated or just, like, um, keep you on the hook, keep you on the line just to kind of, like, appease, like, their own egos because and, like, that's the only reason they like having you around.
Yeah.
Just kind of like that typical thing. And it's kind of sad that it's something that a lot of us can relate to on that level. But I think also just like having him be the villain and not have a redemption arc on page, that was something that was important to me, even though like it was a conversation that I had with my editor at the time because, he and Theo are brothers, and that's not just a relationship that you can cut completely out of your life, right? So I
Right.
kind of leave that just a little bit open ended on Theo's end, where if he ever wants to kind of reach back into his life in like maybe like a couple years, like we can just imagine like Ben, going to therapy and unpacking some of the toxic things in his childhood,
Mhm.
and just like becoming a better person and a better brother to Theo. So I mean that's kind of like maybe like a head canon I see happening 5-10 years down the line, and then just Marcella by Theo's side supporting him, but also kind of being like, I don't know if he is someone I ever want to let back into my life, and then that's the kind of thing that they will have to talk through themselves. So I do think about that a lot of just kind of like the resolution of that relationship after the page, and just kind of like what I think that relationship would look like down the line. I don't think it would be soon at all because I feel like it's too fresh. They've got to maybe take
Mm.
some time apart before they can ever get to a good place for
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Now
And
that's sort of just like my thoughts of like
yeah.
how I have thought of Ben.
Sure. Now, did you ever think of making Ben and Theo friends as opposed to brothers, or did you want this to be a more like did you feel like it was important that they were brothers, that it made it more messy or that it would tie them together later, as you just mentioned?
Yeah, so it was definitely like my idea from the beginning was they have to be brothers.
Okay.
Um, because I think if it wouldn't have been like as complicated or convoluted if they were like just friends, because I think that's uh
Right.
yeah, it's a little
Raises the
too like
stakes.
yeah, it definitely raised the stakes a lot, I would say. Uh,
Yeah.
yes, like they always had to be brothers. Like that was
Yeah.
never a question in my book.
Okay. I was so curious. And would okay, so again, I could be totally off base here, but based on some of the memories that Marcella recounts, some of her experiences early on with Ben, because initially, if we remember, she and Ben were kind of dating maybe a little
Mhm,
bit. And she was developing feelings. She thought maybe he was feeling the same way. And then there's an incident at at school,
mm,
and where he can't quite lift her,
mhm.
and so my question is that where because I feel like you have insight into Ben's brain. Do you is the implication there that his feelings about her body type, did that impact his ability to have more of a deep, everyone's in my house. Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Real life. I knew they were supposed to be swimming. I'm gonna just give me 1 second. You
It's
can just
okay. Yeah.
tell everybody at home, and I will be listening. Oh, wait, can someone close my door? Thank you. I left it open for the dog because I knew he would freak out if he couldn't get in, but then anyway, I am so sorry. They
It's
could have
okay.
waited like a few more minutes. Of course, we're towards the end. So again, real life. You're a treasure, Gabby. Thank you for putting up with me.
Totally fine.
So anyway, my long question that got interrupted. Is Marcella's body type part of the reason why Ben didn't continue to pursue a relationship with her and instead relegated her to friend or best friend?
Yeah.
Is that the
So I think that's something that he would never admit to, but it's definitely in the back of his brain. It is definitely a factor into why their relationship kind of stopped and like why he didn't want to pursue that further.
Mm,
But I think it's something that he would never want to admit because of the way it would make him look. It's
mm.
terrible. And I
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're someone who is just kind of dealt with a guy or a man like that who kind of thinks like that, like, you know that he's never going to admit it, but you know in your head what the truth is. Like, if you've ever like been in a similar situation like that, like you
Mm,
just know, like it's like deep in your gut, like you have
yeah,
that feeling that it's like this is the reason. And I think like that's something that Marcella has had in her gut for a really long time
yeah,
and never really had the courage to voice until like their kind of final confrontation like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love this comment. And this is why we are anti-Ben.
Exactly. That is exactly why we are.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And Alice, another very complex character. Alice and Marcella, obviously good friends at the
Mhm.
beginning. Well, not the beginning of the story, but when we go back in time to,
Mhm.
I want to say the college days. Is that right?
Yes, in their
That's
college
when,
days.
and Alice, she had two brothers essentially interested in her.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about Alice? I would love to
Yeah.
know.
I think Alice is kind of this mysterious character where you don't know a whole lot about her. And then some things come out at the very end, like with the third act and everything.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think just for me, like, it was definitely like a balancing act, I would say, just the dynamic between Alice and Marcella. And just in like the way I wrote them, I was wanting to make sure that I'm not falling into like the same, you know, pit traps where like, like you have two women in conflict over a man and it's like
Mm.
fighting over him or like things like that.
Yeah.
Which like it's very easy to fall into those, I would say. But I think the way I wanted to write their dynamic was definitely like one with conflict where they're kind of maybe tiptoeing around each other because they know there are things unsaid.
Yes.
So I think it was definitely an interesting dynamic to write and just kind of one that I wanted to make sure that I was dealing with carefully because of
Mhm.
that.
I love that. Again, I know I sort of said this initially, but again, complex characters were not just stereotyping and having like
Mhm.
cat fights essentially. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
I love that. And another great question, would we ever get Alice's book?
Ooh, I've I've thought about this before. I don't know if we ever would. Just because I kind of feel like I want her to be single for a while. I want her to just, like be in like the season of her life where she's just focusing on herself and her career and not letting anyone hold her back from what
Yeah.
she wants. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how I see her as like being single and being really happy about it.
Mm. Well, maybe we'll see her in the background or
Yeah, she might pop
something.
up again and then maybe she'll have, someone who is worthy of her.
Yeah. That's so cool. I just love it. I just can't. I'm just so thrilled because we're at the beginning of this. I'm guessing series. This is just me guessing out of my own head. I'm not speaking for any groups or people or anything, but I mean, just how cool to start a potential like universe kind of deal where we have people that we see over and over again and see them grow and how
Oh,
relationships
yeah. I
develop.
mean, for me personally, I love long series, long companion series, like 7 plus books.
Yes.
I got into historical, like, with Lisa Kleypas, and just being able to see, like, all of, like, the different, like, background characters become main characters and have their own love stories. I love that so much. It would be my dream to write just 7 books in the same series. I don't know if anyone will ever let me, but if that would be my dream.
Oh, I just love it. Another question I had, how would you describe Theo? He does have some kind of darker moments.
Mhm.
Uh, and for me, initially, because I tend to veer away from some of the more angsty, like darker characters. And so initially, upon meeting Theo, I was a little nervous
Mhm.
and I was just wondering, and then of course I wasn't because you really again, I loved the complexity of his character. He felt real to me.
Mhm.
And you do get a sense that even if he was unhinged at some point, he's safe. He's a safe person for Marcella to be around.
Yeah.
You know, the way that he shows up for her. Um Tell me anything basically that you think about Theo. What have people said? You know, anything. What do
Yeah.
you want to say about Theo?
I mean, I've definitely heard that before, like, even, like, remember, like, way back when I was working with critique partners in the beginning of just being a little nervous about, like, where this is going just because of, like, how Marcella met him,
Sure.
especially.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and then but I think it was kind of necessary because she is very wary of him in the beginning.
yeah.
And then of course, like when we have that moment where she stops him from confessing his feelings to Alice. So I think it's very necessary that he is a character that she's very wary of. And then his job is kind of changing her mind and kind of showing her who he really is. And
Yes.
that, he wants her to think the best of him and just kind of
Mhm.
like kind of building up that relationship where like, yeah, you saw me at my lowest moment
Yeah,
possible. Let me
yeah.
show you this is not who I am all of the time.
Mhm. Yeah. The opportunity to be redeemed. I
Mhm.
love that, and
Yes.
just the empathy
Yeah.
too. It's so critical, so critical.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
I I feel like I have exhausted my my thoughts, because I mean, you've explained everything is so well explained, but there were definitely things where I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to talk to Gabby about this or that," and, are there any other, Easter egg background things, maybe things that a reader having read it just one time wouldn't have picked up on that you wanna share with us?
Hmm.
I forgot to ask you that in the email, I'm sorry. Just thinking about in general, if this is me, like a gotcha moment, I don't wanna do that to you, but just thinking about spoilers, anything that would be neat for us to know, if there's anything off the top of your head, but no pressure, of course.
There is something like, um, but I don't know if it's like something I want to
Oh,
give
sure.
away because like
Stop,
there are
stop.
definitely like background things that come
Okay.
into play in the next book. And I think like that is something that I feel like is a good rediscovery of like kind of
Yes.
like thinking back, like, like what did I read? And then like maybe just like seeing it show up in
Yes.
the next book.
Oh, things to look forward to in the future.
Yeah.
You know what you just did, Gabby? You just transitioned us beautifully to our
Oh,
end.
we love it.
Even when I interview other authors now, I'm gonna have you come on and transition us to the end. And here's Gabby. That
Hi.
was beautiful. That was beautiful. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us. I haven't seen any more spoilery type questions of people wanting to know. So I didn't want to cut anybody off, but I'm checking the comments. So yeah, this has been Such a fun, almost hour and a half. It went by so fast. I feel like we
It
just sat
did. I
down.
did not feel that hour and a half at all.
I tell you, it's wonderful. And I look forward to people enjoying this for many days, weeks, months to come. It's going to
Oh,
be great,
yes.
especially as your book.
Effervescent, it's always here. Anytime
That's
you
right.
wanna enjoy it.
That's right. And this book is just going to continue to take off so much. I mean, I'm just so thrilled. I'm so thrilled. And thank you again for all of your time today. Best of luck in all of your events in Texas that are coming up. I don't live there, but if I did, I'd be looking for you.
Hey, any
Very
Texas locals out there, I will be around.
all right, sounds good. And I have in my description box, I have links to her Instagram, website, anything pertinent. If you have any questions, feel free to write a comment either live right now or in the description box. And or in the not the description, in the comments, and I will get back to you. We'll make sure that we answer any of the questions that you have. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you guys for coming. And we'll look forward to keeping in touch and finding out about new things as they come up from the great Gabi Gamez. Yay. Awesome. All right. Well, bye, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.